G'day guys! Since the announcement of 10th edition, Games Workshop have been releasing more rules every day, and they're all really cool and exciting. However, the one that they released this morning was the first stratagem we've seen, and of all of the reveals they've done, this has been the most exciting for me by far. So today we're going to talk about this new stratagem and what it's going to mean for 10th edition Warhammer 40k.
Welcome to the Black God!
Alrighty, Rapid Ingress is a core strategic ploy stratagem, one command point. At the end of your opponent's movement phase, you can target one unit from your army that is in reserves. You can arrive on the battlefield as if it were the reinforcement step of your movement phase, and the restrictions are you cannot use this stratagem to enable a unit to arrive on the battlefield during a round that it would normally not be able to do so. Alright, so there's a few things about this that make it really exciting to me. The first is just the layout. The way that they've laid out the stratagem makes it so much clearer and so much easier to know specifically when do you use the stratagem. Specifically, what is the target of the stratagem? What are the effects? What are the restrictions? One of the hardest things that a lot of people struggle with is they'll read most of a rule, but then they'll forget the tail end of the objective, or the tail end of the stratagem, which has the restrictions. This is going to be really clear. Can it be used on core? Can it be used only on infantry? Those sorts of things. Very clearly laid out in the stratagem. That's really cool. The next thing that I really like about it is that it's a core stratagem, which tells me that this is going to be a stratagem available to everyone. I love the idea of having these sorts of impactful stratagems available to everybody. Just like how we currently have the combat interrupt available to everybody, and it's one of those stratagems that can heavily impact the game. I think this is another one that's going to be really cool in the way that it's going to impact the game and everyone's going to have access to it. And the next thing that I love about this stratagem is just the actual rules itself. Being able to go at the end of your opponent's movement phase, I'm going to bring in a unit from strategic reserves. Sounds, a bit meh, but when you actually think about it, it's going to be really powerful. Imagine you go up against an Imperial Guard gun line, right? And they've got all these tanks that are going to blast you. At the end of their movement phase, you can look at the table state and go, okay, they've actually left this ruin over here where I can bring in, say, some Exalted 8-bound from strategic reserves, and they're not going to be able to shoot me. And because it's the end of their movement phase, they're not going to be able to reposition to make sure that they can shoot you. So as a result, you're going to be able to bring in your Exalted 8-bound into that nook in their turn. They're not going to be able to shoot your Exalted 8-bound. And then in your turn, you're going to be able to move out and then launch those charges. So you're going to be able to stage units really effectively in your opponent's turn. However, you've got to remember that at the end of your movement phase, they can do the same thing. So at the end of your movement phase, they might bring in some scions to drop down in front of the tanks that you had just planned to charge with your Exalted 8-bound. So you get this back and forth where you're making decisions in your movement phase, but so are they. You're making decisions in their movement phase, but so are they. And this is going to really help the game be continually engaging for both players. I don't know about you, but the amount of times that I'll go, okay, it's my start of my opponent's movement phase. All right, do your movement phase, let me know when you're done. And then I'll be checking social media, or I'll be talking to somebody, or I'll be fucking around, or I'll be talking to my opponent. But either way, I'm not paying a massive amount of attention on the game itself because there's not much I can do in their movement phase, This is going to hopefully change that. It's going to mean that during your opponent's movement phase, you're going to be watching what they're doing. You're going to be thinking about it because you're going to be making sure that if they move in a certain way, you're going to be able to bring in your strategic reserves in that vulnerable position. And it also means that when you're doing your movement phase, you need to factor that in and you need to make sure that you are covering all your angles, because even though you know where your opponent is right now, you may not know where they are at the end of your movement phase. So you need to make sure during your movement phase that you don't leave any holes and you don't put yourself exposed to anywhere that you can't also cover with firepower. So this is a fucking really cool stratagem. I think this is an absolute slam dunk by GW, and it ticks all of the boxes. It's clear, it's concise, it's universal, it's impactful, and it's fun. This is so cool, and I really hope we see more things like this for 10th edition Warhammer 40k. So I know I haven't done a massive number of videos talking about the reveals so far. There's lots of other content creators going out there and doing those sorts of things, but this one got me real excited to the point where I had to get up early, record this video, and get it out to you guys because I'm really excited about this. So let me know what you guys think in the description below, in the comments section below, I should say. And yeah, let's get a conversation going about some 10th edition stuff. I know they just released information about the Terminators, which I might do a separate video on. Being toughness 5 and bolters being AP 0 these days means that Terminators are going to be really, really tough. They've got an inbuilt 4-up invulnerable save now, really, really cool. So there's some cool stuff there. There's some cool stuff with weapons profiles, and I'm sure over the coming weeks there'll be some more really cool stuff coming out. So yeah, I'll keep up to date with that, and I'll do videos on the ones that I find particularly interesting. If there's anything you want to see me do a video on, or anything you want to talk about, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you want to show your support for the channel, head over to blogforthebloodgod.com. We've just revamped that website and we're adding new features to it every day. So check that website out. It's a great place where you can show your support. You can pick up some apparel like a t-shirt. You can join our Patreon. You can join our Discord server. You can get neoprene objective markers. You can get dice. We've got all kinds of cool merchandise over there and a ton of cool content as well. So make sure you check that out. And as always, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.
Blog for the Blood God.
The Warhammer community suffers from some of the most prohibitively expensive essentials in the world, especially Australian content creators. Every single day, Dean wants to create content, but he can't. Suffering from old, worn-out brushes, expensive model kits, and costly software and equipment, he can't endure much longer. Just look at this dirty paint water. Would you drink this? Would you let your child? Even a small monthly donation can help provide Dean with clean paint water, basic tools for survival, and access to life-saving information and education. So please, follow the links in the description below and find out how you can sponsor a mad cunt like Dean today and end the suffering. Suffering that is cruel